What's going on, everybody? My name's Jorep, and you're tuned in to the Jorep Variety Show. Now, you might be asking yourself, since this is episode 1, what the hell is the Jorep Variety Show anyway? Let me give you the elevator pitch. It's a radio show where me, Jorep, talks about pop culture, movies, video games, what's going on in the news, and a little bit of everything. Might have some guests come on and talk about that too, but we're all going to have a good time. So strap on, tune in, and let's begin the show. First up, I want to talk about the news, and not politics. We got enough sources talking about that right now, and we're all just going to start a big fight anyway. Let's leave it where it belongs, huh? What I want to talk to you guys about is a Burger King in Epping, New Hampshire. Now get this. Employees, including the manager, were recently arrested because they were operating a drug operation through the drive-thru window. How about that? You ever been to a Burger King and got some pot with your Whopper? They do the Whopper. Anyway, you roll up to this Burger King, you go to the window, and you ask them if Nasty Boy is working. And if Nasty Boy is working, you are in luck. You then order your fries extra crispy, and when they bring that food, you pay for your dime bag, you get some weed in there, and you're good to go. Of course, this situation is absolutely ridiculous. Word got to the cops pretty fast, they conducted a sting, and it's all over now. And that's all well and good, justice is served, but just the gall of these guys, running your pot operation out of a drive-thru window, that's like something you're gonna see in Breaking Bad. I mean, shoot, if he'd sold it out of his mom's apartment like a normal drug dealer, he'd probably still be on the streets today. Shifting gears to another type of green, I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about golf balls. Now, Costco's got some golf balls they've been selling that people are just going ape about. You're taking them, you're buying them, and these resellers are selling them on eBay for up to double the original price. Why? Well, it turns out that Kirkland Signature, the warehouse brand from Costco who's selling these things, they put their name and the logo on and sold them in Costco of balls that were an overrun of supply from Nassau Golf Factory, and they produce really high quality, high-end golf balls. Now, I don't play the sport myself, but, there's definitely a difference between these, the golf balls that the pros are using and ones you're going to get over at the putt-putt course. And these things were being sold for what I assume to be rock-bottom prices at Costco and just going everywhere. And people were scared. They were a limited run, but they were so popular, Costco actually says they're going to come back. Talk about your customer service. And speaking of customer service, we're moving over to Walmart, who's never really been known for it. Turns out they've got their own brand of alcohol masquerading as craft beer under a brand that is completely, on paper anyway, unrelated to Walmart. The Cat's Away IPA, Pack of Trouble, and After Party Pale Ales are all produced by Walmart-owned companies and subsidiaries and being sold with no labeling of Walmart whatsoever as kind of an independent craft beer feel and flavor. They're not actually breaking any laws because they're not claiming anything that's not true. They are just intentionally leading the consumer, though they will deny that, about the origins of the beer and what exactly qualifies as an indie experience. Now, is that the end of the world? Not at all, I feel like it's a little dishonest of the company, a company that's not exactly known for its honesty anyway, so I'm not exactly surprised. But at the same time, I don't drink alcohol, so I can't judge the quality of the flavor. I've been told it's actually not that bad, and honestly, that should be the real differentiating factor. But at the same time, if a band I was really into was putting out a CD and then you find out, oh, it's not actually the band playing, it was just these other guys they hired to play, I'd probably still enjoy the music, but I'd really feel let down by the band itself, Now, someone get me a drink, because that's a lot to take in. And speaking of Taken, let's talk about the latest monster movie I watched this evening. It's called The Monster, and it came out last year at a very limited release. Now, it's one of those more independent feeling, kind of art house experiences, which I really enjoy. The Monster, I can't be entirely certain because I can't find any supporting information online just yet, but it seems like they were using a lot of practical effects instead of CGI, and even if, a practical effect monster can look a little goofy at times, I really appreciate and respect that art form a lot more than some hokey CGI that's not going to hold up in a couple of years anyway. Talk about your uncanny valleys. As for the content of the movie itself, I'm going to speak as though you've seen the film, and I am going to tell some spoilers here, so I'm actually going to Once I put in this video on YouTube, put the description in, I'm going to timestamp where this is at. I'll give y'all a second here to pause the video and just skip ahead to the end of this section if you want to watch the movie and not have the storyline spoiled for yourself, alright? Alright, did we lose everybody who paused? Okay, so the monster, the whole thing is basically a metaphor for alcohol addiction, much in the way the Babadook was kind of a metaphor for grief. And I absolutely love that, you know? There's a billion and one monster movies out there, and they can always be fun to watch for a laugh sometimes, but it's very rare that one's actually going to legitimately make you fear for your life in the way, say, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre did when that came out. So when you flavor these things up by giving them a meaningful story, a metaphor, some kind of reason to believe in the monster beyond just, oh, there's a creature in the woods, you know, that's what's really going to capture me. These are real issues that you can think about, that you can relate to. So the movie's about this mom and her daughter, and the mom is just abusive as all hell, alright? She's getting drunk every night, she's waking up late, she's not making appointments, and the movie even goes out of its way, and this is one of the more played-up, hokey bits of the film, despite having some very well-done scenes, where you are just constantly bombarded by the abuse this daughter goes through. Now, they don't make it very clear what her age is in the film. The actress who played her is 15, but the daughter could be anywhere between the age of like 10 and 14. I don't think it's really that important. She acts very young, but at the same time, she acts as though the world's really weathered her. But she is carrying a stuffed animal that sings around the whole time as well. Anyway, she just faces all kinds of abuse. She's beaten, she's ignored, she's neglected, she's cursed at. It's out of control. So anyway, they're going through this drive, and they're in the woods, and they crash into this thing that they think is a wolf. The car is completely disabled. They call for help. And that's when the horror begins. As the paramedics, the tow truck guy arrive, the monster just starts picking them off one by one, killing everybody, until finally the mom and the little girl are once again alone. They can't escape from the monster. No matter what they do, it keeps appearing. And then the mom, in a turn of events, you know, it's a metaphor for her admitting her alcohol addiction, realizing it's going to kill her and she can't do anything to stop that, but at the same time she can save her daughter from going down that path as well. And she sacrifices her life, giving herself over to the monster so that the daughter can escape. Of course, in the 11th hour this fails. The daughter comes running out, tries to save her mother, is unable to save her, of course, as the metaphor continues, but she is able to defeat the monster in what I thought was just a glorious scene where she takes a makeshift aerosol flamethrower using a lighter and just burns it to a crisp after telling her she's not afraid of it anymore. Then it tries to run away. She follows the monster, beats it to death with a stick, and then leaves the woods talking about, monsters are real, but I'm not afraid of them anymore. And she's going to be alright. And I thought it was a really, really well done, brilliant way to finish the movie off. Kind of an uplifting ending if you ignore the fact that literally everyone else we saw in the film died, but, whatever. Honestly, they could give this daughter a sequel where she's just out hunting all kinds of monsters, call it Last Action Hero 2, and you'd have yourself a whole damn franchise. Anyway, this is where you're going to be coming back if you ended up skipping past the spoiler section of this film, so welcome back to the show, and I'm glad to have you. The Monster, I wouldn't call it the best film I've ever watched, not even the best horror film I've ever watched, but you know what? It was a damn good movie, and it's definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But, speaking of survival stories, the last thing I really want to talk about today is Far Cry Primal. I got a PS4 recently, and I stayed pretty busy, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to play games, but I did get Doom 4 when I got the system, absolutely loved it, and I've moved on now to Far Cry Primal. I've always been a fan of the Far Cry series. I've loved what they've done with it, and I really love what it's evolved into. The first game's kind of a not quite standard shooter, but it's a solid game with some innovative ideas. It wasn't until Far Cry 2, however, that they kind of said, you know what, we're branching in this different direction. This is not just going to be a first-person shooter franchise, it's a first-person adventure franchise. And Far Cry 2 was a flawed as hell game. It had a great storyline, a lot of really neat ideas, but they were executed so damn poorly. One of the biggest issues is they had these constantly respawning enemies at every checkpoint you went to, and no matter how many times you killed them, if you had to travel in that game, you were going to be bombarded by just these respawning enemies who were annoying as hell, who never left you alone, and I think they knew they screwed that up, because in Far Cry 3, they built these outposts that served as the new checkpoints, and once you took those over, you owned them. And eventually you owned the whole damn game world you were playing in, and that was just an awesome feeling. Far Cry 3 is still probably my favorite game of the franchise just because of the way it innovated in the market at the time, what it did, and how fun it was. But at the same time, they keep improving on the formula. Far Cry 4 was a great game. Far Cry Primal, I've only played a couple hours so far, but it's a lot of fun, and the way they're mixing up this time, because they can't just keep making the same shooter game over and over again, even if it's a really cool world, even if it's a really cool, set of ideas doing it different from other games, they've decided to go back into the prehistoric age, and you're playing as essentially a caveman in a tribe. You don't have access to guns. You've got spears, you've got bow and arrows, you've got clubs, and you're hunting animals, you're fighting other tribesmen, and it's just a cool way to invert the whole thing on its head, take that and completely change the game. And of what I've played so far, I'm really liking Far Cry Primal. Once I'm a little further into the game in a future episode, I'm sure I'll talk about it again, and maybe my opinion will change. Maybe I'll be like, damn, you know what? That caveman idea was actually the worst thing they could have possibly done. Or maybe it'll be the best thing ever. I'm definitely ready to find out. What I do know, though, is that Ubisoft is, they're not the best game developer company out there, but they are solid, and I do think they learn from their mistakes. And one of the biggest problems with their Assassin's Creed franchise is that it suffered from massive sequelitis. So even if they're throwing some off-the-walls idea into the Far Cry franchise, I like that they don't just want to make you play the exact same damn game every time. That's a really good thing to know from a developer, and it's really good to know that, hey, we listen to what our fans want on some level. We're going to keep making these games and changing it up and giving you a different experience. You're not just buying the same $60 package that you bought 3 years ago. Anyway, that's about all the time we have for the Jorep Variety Show today. If you made it this far, you're reaching the end, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you tuning in, listening to what I've got to say, and supporting independent art. If you're already a subscriber to this channel, and you've listened through the show and thought, hey, this is not an episode of 2 Cents on Current Events, well, don't worry, we've got another one coming out real soon. I've got an interview I'm conducting with another user on Tuesday, and we're going to have a lot of fun there. My grandest pipe dream vision is for Jorep Radio to encompass a number of awesome shows that you guys would love to watch, covering a range of different topics and experiences. But, it's early, we'll get there. Anyway, thank you so much again for tuning in. We're going to have another episode of this, as well as 2 Cents on Current Events very soon. And this is Jorep, signing out.